Maurice, how the devil are you?
I am good, already tired, and we still have to start the show, so we're in good shape.
I know. So what we did is we came in here at 9 a.m. to see Maurice, and of course, PMC. Always amazing to see you, my friend.
Yeah, likewise, likewise. Happy to be back again, and you know, this is a 16th year in a row. I don't know where the hell the time went, but back at NAMM, you know how it is.
People often, very complimentary, say I must be the hardest working person in the music industry. And I was like, no, have you met Maurice?
Well, you know how it is, you know, sometimes when you want to get things done the right way, the proper way, and you have a great team of people, then you show the way.
And
right?
still work 100 hours a week.
Yeah, I beat you, sorry.
So look, we wanted to start off here. Eric's behind the camera. Hey, Eric. Just tell us about this. What do we have going on here?
This is kind of really exciting for us. We had our Result 6 monitor that we launched in 2018 originally.
Yeah.
That was really becoming the model that allowed a lot of younger people to enter the PMC family. You know, that had all the characteristics, all the designs of all our larger models. And but you know, we're kind of slowly coming towards the end of the life cycle of that as well. You know, we had this idea of maybe to do a really exclusive limited edition for that.
Yeah.
And one of our partners, Custom House, they really expressed interest. They loved the monitor already as it was, but they asked us, like, can we do something special? So we said, absolutely. So we decided to slightly redesign the speaker, different colors, and you know, upgraded a few things.
So there's other options other than the white. What else can you get?
Well, it's not that there's other options in the sense of, well, the other options are obviously the color and the look of it, right?
Yeah.
And people are comparing it already with a stormtrooper kind of image, you know what I mean? But it's the performance, obviously, that counts. That's what we focused on as well, to give it a little bit extra. It's kind of, I dare almost say, an anniversary model. We only built 125 pairs. You can only purchase them through Custom House. Nobody else in the world can sell them. So a little, you know, prop there for the guys. That's where you need to get them.
Lovely.
But, you know, the response has been amazing. People love the way it looks. And, you know, as you also can see
now
in the
I can't unsee Stormtrooper. I wasn't thinking about it. Now he said
well, you know, that, I mean, people told me, oh, it looks like a stormtrooper. I'm like, well, I'll take that. You know, but it's super exciting. I think it's very special. Like I said, limited edition, 125 pairs only. When they're gone, they're gone. And as I have heard, because they only have had them for a week, it's going to be gone pretty fast. You know, so we're really excited about it.
We're on day 1. This video is coming out on day 2.
Yep.
So we're giving you a little bit of a head start for anybody who's interested.
You know, but obviously for people looking and in coming into the PMC family that love the sound, you know, that might not yet have the budgets to go to the bigger ones, you know. This has been such a great solution for all the people over all the years. And we're still super excited because even like 7 years after we launched it, it's still one of the top selling products. And it's amazing, you know. So we're delighted with it. I think it looks really, really cool. And, you know, the feedback was great. So I think we're off to a good start.
And no lawsuit from George Lucas? No. Anyway, so... Beautiful. No, they're absolutely gorgeous. And of course, I mean, I know them really, really well. I don't know if you know them. Check them out. Give them a listen. All right. Well, what else you got going on?
Well, obviously, we have a room that we always have built since 2017. We were the first, obviously, to build the Dolby Atmos music room that we did at Capitol. And we decided years ago in 2017 to build it for the first time at the NAMM show floor. So this time we did it again.
Wonderful.
And, you know, as usual, we have a whole slew of our friends, engineers, producers coming to present. And I'm going to kick somebody out of the way right now. Yes, thank you very much.
Excusez-moi. Merci beaucoup.
So, here you are. And, you know, we literally on top of the show floor, which is unheard of because nobody else does this.
Yeah, that's
right? We have said, hey, we're going to bring this to the people. We always believed, you know, that the only way really to discover PMC is by listening to it. Wonderful. You know, and we have been, as you know, a big proponent of Dolby Atmos music. So no better place to do it than on the NAMM show floor, where you have all the creative people, you have the engineers, you have the producers, you have the artists. So anybody that could be in any way, shape or form be connected with Dolby Atmos music will be here.
You are the way I discovered Atmos. I was in with Jack Douglas at Capitol. And we were in, I don't know what room we were in.
Studio C.
And Al Schmidt, our dearly departed, incredible friend, amazing Al Schmidt, was in there with Steve Genelec. And they're like, oh, come in the room. And we go in, and Al and Steve are there, and it was Pet Sounds.
Yeah.
It was a Pet Sounds 4-track, fully orchestrated, mixed in Atmos, and that was the first thing I'd ever heard in Atmos.
Yeah.
And my hairs are actually standing on end. You can see, hopefully you can see in that light.
Still going up.
Remembering it.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the greatest albums, one of my favorite albums, one of most human beings' favorite albums, fully orchestrated, sitting there in a room with Al Schmidt. And you were there, and you were there, weren't you? Yeah, and Steve Genelec. And just listening back, and it was just like, I didn't know what was going on with the world. Yeah,
no, it's amazing. It's like the format is absolutely stunning, and I think over the last couple of years, more and more people have been able to enjoy it in the proper way, and that's why we also do setups like these here for people to enjoy it. But for me personally, it has been super exciting as an engineer, getting involved in that style of music creation, music mixing. For me, it was like a little bit selfish in a way. I wanted to be involved, and thankfully I represent PMC, so I could get the whole company behind it.
Great.
And yeah, it has been an amazing journey, and it continues, right? It's still developing in many different ways. More and more people step into it, different ways of going about it. But we have said, hey, we gotta set that bar, we set that standard, we set the reference, and we will continue to do so. But obviously, many more people should jump in and get excited about it, really. So we have said, hey, why don't we showcase, as we have done over the last 6 years, how we do things, what you possibly can do, even in a room this size. You see, we have almost 20 chairs set up. People will have an amazing time, but what is really exciting for us is that we have many engineers, producers like Tizio and Bates and Mike Tucci and Andrew Sheps, and I mean, I can go name dropping, but they're all coming here. They're going to showcase some of their projects they worked on. They explain what they have been using, how to go about it, what their philosophy is in Atmos Music. But we also are partnering with some incredible other manufacturers. SSL, for instance, we have a close relationship with.
Great.
They always loved the fact that we did a room, and they would have loved to have a room like that. I said, well, come on in, and join us. And AudioMovers, obviously, the company that does so much in regards to Dolby Atmos software and the workflow and all. We've been working with them quite a bit, and for them it's a great opportunity to connect with the right audience at the NAMM show floor. So we brought them in. Universal Audio, you see some setup of theirs. They're delighted to join us here. Normally I have an amazing booth on the other side. This year they're joining us here because they felt like the partnership that we can create as manufacturers together is a really strong message to the outside world. And in all fairness, we see each other all the time in the major studios. So we think that makes a lot of sense. And I think it's great for people to come and hear not just about PMC. It's more than just the speakers, it's the software, it's the computers, the interfaces. So
excellent.
Well, despite having this whole Atmos setup, we also set up actually our best-selling speaker at the moment, the PMC 6.2. Three-way, we only launched it 2 years ago, but when we designed it, it was really aimed at a specific targeted place in the market. And, it has been outperforming so many other larger models and larger speakers there that, it's not at, an entry-level price point. It's $10,000 for the pair, but it has done... For the pair, yeah. But it has done extremely well for us, and it's amazingly popular, and, we're actually always inundated with, questions about it. And especially at the NAMM show, we didn't only want to play back Atmos music. We want to be able to play back in stereo, for people as well that come here, because obviously stereo is still there, as we all know. But this has been for us really the best-selling speaker throughout our whole lineup. And, you see the similarities between the larger models. So we really tried to put all the technology and innovation and characteristics that people know from our larger systems in a smaller box. And thankfully, the audience agreed that we succeeded in that. So we're really happy.
Great. I must say one thing, talking about Atmos and immersive, is that you're one of the few companies that actually design speakers for that purpose.
Yeah.
That's something that should not be forgotten, because, look, I really appreciate, especially some of the entry kind of models. I actually like companies to do that because they really help us, because they bring people into the market. And it's fantastic. But of course, they're not going to go out and design speakers specifically for that, which is totally understandable. But here you are. I mean, this is an immersive speaker.
Yeah, well, and the interesting part is, although we always say, if a speaker doesn't work in stereo, it has no business business in Atmos either, right?
Absolutely,
So it has to perform. So we also, have these in stereo environments because it is effectively still a monitor.
Totally.
And the fact that the design is made in such a way that's only 4 inches deep, so we can place them inside the wall, like what we did at Capitol.
Oh yeah, you're not compromising, but you're also not adding excessive, unnecessary stuff to it. You're just making it for the purpose.
It needs to do what it needs to do, right? At the end of the day, it's all about the sonics. Now, in this case, because you always come into rooms that might not have the square footage, you don't want to put stands up and take away the square footage. This allows us to hang, well, here then on a truss, but we can hang it in the wall, we can hang it on the wall. It's only 4 inches deep, but it has the same performance. You will recognize the tweeters. They're the same components as we have on the larger models. And we have these then in 3 or 4 different sizes, actually. And hang them on the wall, hang them in the wall, cover them with acoustic fabric. They completely disappear. You keep your room clean, but you still have the high performance audio that you're looking for. So yeah, we specifically designed that for the Atmos environments.
All right, we're with our friend Igor, although apparently at the moment his real name is Abbey Road. How are you, my friend?
I'm good.
I'm good.
How are you?
So obviously AudioMovers here at PMC AudioMovers booth. What have you got that's new and nutritious? What do you want to talk to us about?
Yeah, so we have several new things. We have Omnibus for Windows.
That was like when we put the first video out, 50% of the comments were, yeah, that's cool, but why isn't there a version for Windows yet?
So here you go.
Okay.
So it's slightly different from Mac version, but more or less does the same thing. 4 SEO drivers, 128 channels each. Supports Wasapi, supports any combination of Wasapi or SEO devices, and NDI networking, so you can communicate between 2 different omnibuses or any other NDI software. Yeah.
Superb.
In addition to that, we released a new plugin which is called Minibus.
Yeah.
Minibus is a plugin that transmits audio over NDI protocol. So now you can have, if you have a studio which is running Omnibus, you could have guests who coming over. They can download and install plugin, put it on any channel, and then it will appear as audio input in your Omnibus if they connect it to the same network. And we're gonna have 2 versions: Minibus Lite, which will be completely free. It's a free 2-channel transmitter, so anyone could download it. And we're gonna have multi-channel Minibus transmitter and receiver, up to 16 channels per instance. We also preview new Listen To.
Nice.
So new Listen To standalone application now supports talkback functions. We have ABCD player. Essentially, it's a player that allows you to load different versions of your mix and play, like do ABCD switching. So the playhead will play at the same time, and that's how you can be sure that you're in the same place, basically, same location and song.
Wonderful.
It transmitted. Supports up to 128 channels.
Only 128? I'm joking. That's a lot. That's fantastic.
Yeah, now you can connect to up to 4 different sessions. So you have like interviews or people streaming from different locations. You can now connect all of them. And we have built-in mixer for monitoring, so you can combine them and monitor. We have synchronization functions in receiver. So now we can generate time code, and you can synchronize your DAW transfer to incoming audio time code. We also added video player, and video player can be synchronized to incoming audio. So if you're working on a music or picture, now it may be much easier to monitor it. If you're recording somewhere in the studio, they can stream it to you, and you can see it, how it's actually going to be against the picture that you're working on.
So, snizzle ton of connectivity is what you're saying?
Yep.
Excellent. Thanks, Igor. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for coming.
There'll be a link down below for AudioMovers. Stay tuned. My first API was built in '71, and they used to just build them almost to order.
Yeah.
And it was built for a keyboard player. It had more levels of gain staging I've ever seen in my life. And around the back was just this mess of loom and cable and whatever. Like the opposite of what you're looking at over there.
Yeah, well, I try to eliminate that stuff.
Yeah, good.
Too many choices are bad.
Yeah,
well, that's why we have the TQ and the high pass and the low pass sweep filter, because you can do just about everything with this 3-band EQ that we've got.
Very
you know?
nice.
Now this is the immersive board, and we're doing a Sony 360 demo here, which is kind of cool because this is, you know, this is like your lower bed 7.1,
Yep.
and this is your 4 up here, and then you got an LFE control here,
Yeah.
and simultaneous stereo mix.
Yeah.
So, because you know they always say, well, can you do a stereo mix too for the same price? And it's like, yeah, whatever. And so you do your immersive mix, then you switch the monitors to your stereo mix, touch up a few things, and you're done. Yeah, it's really cool.
That is really cool, yeah.
Plus, because we're dealing with discrete analog, there's no metadata attached to any of the positioning. So your ending file, your ADM file, is actually smaller.
Nice.
Yeah, so you can actually download it to your phone. You can stream it, as they hope you would do.
All right, so tell me about this lovely box here.
It started out with people wanted headphone amps, and because they had a Q system, but they wanted to expand it. Like if you're doing a horn section, you could put them all into one. So I thought, you know what would be really cool is if I had a mic in there that you could actually bleed back into your headphones. So when you're singing, if you're a background singer, you got your 4 people around the mic. You have to take one of your ear cups off. But if you turn this up, this right here feeds right into your mic. So you don't have any delay. It's not through a Q system, so you don't have to take your earphones off, which is really cool. It has 4 independent amplifiers. Each set of headphones has its own. And these are used by, like 3 of the top mastering engineers have picked this as their reference headphone amp over all these that are out there.
I like that.
And we also did a thing for Michael Romanofsky. We took his, and we put the XLR connector for the headphones. On the back of this, you've got XLR plus 4 in left and right.
Yep.
You also have a headphone input, so you can come out of your headphone amp directly into this input.
Nice.
Then you have a foot switch for this mic, because this mic can also, you can have like, the whole idea was the collaborator was going to be, wait for it, collaboration. Oh, I know. So the collaboration part of this is if we're all in the room and we're working on a song, we all have headphones on. When I say to you something, we have to do this. But you put a foot switch in the middle and you hit the foot switch and you can talk to each other. So you keep this up and you hit the foot switch and you can say, hey, play that part again. But let's do this or let's do that.
Very
so
smart.
that was the whole idea behind the collaborator.
Like it?
Yeah, so that, and then each one, like I said, each one has
The next question is there also a way of tapping that mic and recording it?
You could, well, yeah, you just plug the foot switch in.
Yeah.
No, you don't. If you take the foot switch out, it's on all the time. So you can do that. But this doesn't have a compressor in it. When we go over there,
Let's go over there then.
let's go over there. The same format.
Yeah.
Okay. So we decided to go to the next level and make a mixer. So this is 8 mono channels, 2 stereo. It has a TQ, which is our version of a Till TQ.
Nice.
It has a panner and a level control.
Yep.
It has 2 amplifiers for 2 sets of headphones. It has hooks on the side where you can hang the headphones, or it has a bottle holder. You can hold a bottle of Jack Daniels if you want. But this gives you the ability to plug in either side so the cables aren't dragging across it. Yeah.
Just Jack Daniels. Got to get this right, okay?
Yeah. You hang the headphones on the side. It also has a hole in it where you can plug the headphones into the hole so the
Nice.
jack isn't laying on the floor.
Good.
So this has the dual outputs, 12 inputs,
Yep.
but this has the same thing, the same talkback thing, but this goes through a 2-to-1 compressor. So it fattens it up a little bit. And it has a button we call Hear Me, which now you can blend this into your earphones. So if you set this by a drummer,
Yeah.
you can bring that up and he gets drum perspective room sound, and you don't have to put reverb or anything like that on his stuff. Okay? And then it has a talkback mic that he can talk back to the control room.
Nice.
They all daisy chain, but when I talk back to the control room, no one else can hear me. So I can complain about you and nobody knows. So those
Boy,
are
that drummer sucks.
yeah, and then you can also keep this on and record this mic, because this mic
Okay, which is what,
sounds like
Okay.
in the air tonight. I mean, it's really fat.
That was where my brain went when you told me about this one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the
So
cool
nice.
thing. Now the back of this, on the bottom, there's D sub in and out. 1 through 8, 9 through 12. And on the back, there is 2, but we also have this Ethernet card that plugs into it. This is audio over Ethernet. This is 4 analog channels. This is not digital.
Right.
And so you can come in and go out, and you can do it. You don't even need shielded cable because it's all balanced. So these are designed to either be daisy chained or you can home run them. It's all parallel. There's no head unit. There's no external power supply. Every unit is powered by itself, so it has a lot of power. These things can be harmful, which is what we want.
Superb.
And then there's also 4 XLR inputs for the last 4 that you can also access from the back. And then there's a 1/4 inch in where you can plug your iPhone in and listen to music or whatever. And then a foot switch for the talk button.
It also does the laundry, feeds a family of 4. I mean,
It does.
Dude,
and it has handles so you can pick it up, but it also, this is designed so if it did that, it didn't break the knobs off it.
Yeah, very smart.
And it has a...
It's almost like you know what you're doing.
No, let's not go down that path. Then you got a 1/4 20 here, which we recommend using a camera stand because it has a wider boot. But you can set it on a stand if you want.
Superb.
Now at Fame, they put these in Fame Studios, and the funny thing is the guy said that they have the other systems that are the digital ones, and one of the guitar players, who's a really awesome guitar player, said that he never heard his guitar sound good, but he always knew the engineer would make it sound good, so he would just play.
Yeah.
So he went from Studio B into Studio A, where Fame had just bought 15 of these.
Nice.
And he sat down and he puts the headphones on. He goes, "Oh my God, is that what my guitar sounds like?" And
Well, I'm
literally,
excited because we're there in April. And
Yeah.
I love Rodney, so
Rodney was saying
Good job,
he
Rodney.
said the guy was just shocked. Okay,
nice.
He said so. He goes and the band plays and stuff, and everybody came in the studio and said how great the headphones were.
Nice.
So he decides he's going to put the session.
Are you going
on
to tell me now they're listening to the mix and go, "It's not very good"? Can you make it sound like the headphones?
Well, here's the funny thing is, so he decides after everybody left, he hits play and he goes out. He said, first of all, when he walked into the room, he said he couldn't even talk because all the headphones were so loud.
Yeah.
And he said he couldn't even get them on his head. And he said every mix was different. He said every mix was awful, but the musicians were happy.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, as a guitar player, I don't know what other guitar players are like. I like myself to be barely audible so I can actually dig into the track and enjoy it.
I like myself to be very audible.
Audible?
Audible, yes. So let's go from here.
Yep.
Now we'll go to something that has absolutely no tone. Let's go over to the patch bay. This guy right here, this is Jared Vogt. He's my partner. He had this idea of putting together a patch bay using relays for god-awful reason. I mean, why would you even do that? And then he explained it to me. I already knew, but I was just trying to make him feel good. So this is I'm going to let Jared take this over, but this patch bay, it eliminates the discussion of frequency response, noise floor, headroom, distortion, because it's a relay.
Right.
And take it from there.
I guess Jim took relay sticks out to show, since the unit is obviously not working with them out.
Right.
But this is the box. I mean, so
Nice.
this is a relay patch. This is a 64 by 64 software controlled patch bay. And our big distinction in here is that all of the routing is done with relays.
Wow.
So there are over 1,500 relays in the box.
It sounds quite expensive.
I mean, it's not a cheap box. I mean, for this box, it's about $9,000, but yeah.
Right. But it's your ultimate patch bay where you can take every piece of hardware that you own.
Well, the key thing when we built this is that we just did not want. If you're going to get a patch bay and control it with software, the one thing that you do not want to do, the most important thing that you would do in a patch bay is do not have the patch bay do anything to the sound of the audio, right?
Sure.
So the only way to do that is to get outside of the signal path to do the switching. And that's what you do with relays, right?
Of course.
So you can do it inside the signal path, but you're going to have electronics in your signal chain. So we just thought, if you're gonna do this, you have to get outside. It's got to be.
What's the lifespan of the relays, you think?
You know, these relays are basically telecom relays.
Yeah.
So they're like millions of switches.
Nice.
So I mean, when we've, you could have this for centuries probably, and never
Nice.
do the amount of switching that you would do in a
Excellent.
telecom environment.
Superb. Wow.
And we in fact have some of these on the test bench that just sit there and go, grrr, you know, all day long. So.
Absolutely superb. And this is the software that controls it.
That's the software that controls it. So this is a whole setup, that's controlling all of these pedals and all of these 500 racks right now. So you're just seeing all of the different signal chains. This will make it very simple. So we'll go here to the default setup, make all of these things go away. And you want to create a new chain. It's as easy as saying, I want to create a new chain, call it a vocal. Then you go to your sources. Let's see, get rid of that. Say it's mic 2. Then you go to your processors. Say you want to draw Falcon in there. Then go to your destinations. And you want to bring that back into Pro Tools Input 1, active, done. So, and if you want to turn the compressor on and off, you can just go up here, turn the compressor on and off. If you decide that you want to put another compressor in and A/B it, we'll make an A/B group here. And go back to your processors.
I'm sure you can save these all as setups, dump them inside your session files, open it up.
You can. This will run as a plugin inside of Pro Tools or any other DAW.
Nice.
That basically just, whatever the state is, it just gets saved with the session.
Nice.
So you can see all of the chains, everything that you've done in that session.
Wow.
Yeah.
This is awesome.
Yeah. I mean, this will cause, this A/B group, for example, is something that you can't even do in a patch bay. So if you want to know, for example, what this mic sounds like going through these two compressors differently, you literally can just go click, and it just switches back and forth between the two. Or in this, we got 3 mics over here.
Yeah.
Those mics are connected to one preamp, and you can just cycle the mics to the preamp to hear what it sounds like. If you're doing that with a patch bay, you literally have to go spend several minutes switching cables around, right? So this, you can close your eyes and just go click, 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 and cycle through them. So it changes the way that you think about the gear that you have in your studio, because things that you might have used or you might have thought about doing in the flow, you're not going to. Now you can.
Yeah, you've got this really crazy, distorts everything, but really great compressor that you don't want to spend 10 minutes patching in when it might work. Now you can go, oh yeah, actually that does work.
Yeah, and you can just put it...
Aids creativity.
Yes, and because you can just build these chains to be as complex as you want,
wow,
you can just put something in the chain, leave it off, on the off chance that you might decide you want to try it, right? So one of the guys that we have that has this spring reverb that he said it was in his tank reverb that was in his patch bay, and he just said he never used it, but as soon as he put it in here, he would just put it in a chain, and every once in a while he would just flip it in, in, and sometimes it sounded great. And he said, I use it all the time now. I never used it before. Because it would be because I'd have to go spend several minutes patching it in. Yeah, and if it sounds bad, then you have to spend several minutes patching it back out, right?
Yeah, Bob Horn just came up and said it makes all of his hardware now plugins.
Yes, yes, exactly. In fact, it's
actually quicker than loading a plugin.
It is quicker than loading a plugin. Yeah. So yeah. Okay, so here's something we just announced this today. I think the press release went out this morning. Yeah. Right here are 2 slots where you can put in 16 channels of conversion.
Ooh, okay.
And then you can either put a Dante card or a USB card here.
Yeah.
And now you can think about this as a 16-channel interface that's connected to a 48-channel analog matrix. So that gear that you have in storage, you hang it all off on the back of this, you stick it on your Dante network, and now anytime you want, you can instantly get access to that and build chains out of it.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Warren, thank you for joining us at the Shure
thank you for having us.
booth. Yes, it's NAMM 2025.
It is, isn't it?
It is.
Yes, I just did the sort of royal we, didn't I, say, for having us? Because that's what it is, isn't it? It's like, you know it.
Yes.
Like over there, we have Steve Majora, who's one of our amazing mentors.
Amazing.
Incredible keyboard player.
Yes.
Played on your material, yeah? And, of course, Eric, the man behind the man behind the man. And then the boss.
The boss
my wife.
lady. That's right. So we have the whole Produce Like a Pro crew here.
Yeah. So it's always an us.
It is an us. It's the royal we. I think that's totally fair.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so you're joining us here. This is our home recording setup that we've kind of put together.
It's cool.
Thanks.
We got our friends from Genelec there.
Yeah.
You know what? I have to give a shout out. I have this, and I have not finished the review yet. It hasn't been edited.
Uh-oh. The radial?
It's really good, the radial. It's for people, I'm going to, if you don't mind me lumping you in, for guys and girls like us.
Yes.
It's when you grew up using microphones, plugging things in, know how, We're not in a world necessarily. Our brain's not in there with like, oh, let's open 55 levels of digital. They built something that does 99% of what you need.
Yes.
24 hours a day.
Analog.
It's totally smart.
Yes.
And of course, being radial, you could probably throw it into the wall and the wall would fall over.
That's very true. They're built like we are, like a
Yeah.
tank. Do you know we're 100 this
Yeah.
year?
Really?
Yes. That's kind of a big deal at NAMM.
You don't look a day over 25.
Thanks. Thanks. Yeah, that's our big, one of our
Really?
big focuses.
100?
Yeah,
I never knew that.
1925.
I was assume 40s, 50s.
Nope, 1925. So we're celebrating 100 years.
Was it Shure Brothers? Was it Brothers at first?
It started, so Mr. Shure started the company making radio parts,
okay.
wholesale or selling radio parts.
Okay.
And then went into business with his brother, and that was Shure Brothers.
That's what I remember, yeah.
And then the brother went and did his own thing, and then it was Shure Incorporated, and
Okay.
that's what we know today.
Amazing.
It's crazy.
Yeah, you're right. I go into studios all over the world. And I know we're at Shure, but we'll talk like we are about a radio. The two things that are consistent in every single major studio in the world are an SM57 and a Neumann U87.
I agree.
And
completely.
every major engineer, with one or two exceptions, if you sit them down, guys and girls have been making records for 30, 40 years, you say, what are the one or two microphones you need to make any album? Hugh Padgham, Steve Lillywhite. Oh, the list is endless. They always say an 87 and a 57, I can make any record.
Hands down. What about the SM7B?
Yeah, I think that was Ed's.
Yeah.
Ed, and of course, and anybody in the Michael Jackson camp, they always were like SM7s. Yeah.
SM7 all the way.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
you're talking into our latest microphone right
Yeah,
now.
so tell me about this.
Yeah, so it's called the Shure MV7i. The I stands for interface.
I know. Off camera, Laura described it as an interface with a microphone attached to it.
Yeah.
Which I thought was rather special.
It's a two-channel interface that happens to have a mic built into it. So you're talking into that microphone. And then on XLR in the back, we're running my MV7 Plus via XLR and then USB out to the computer.
Okay, so it's two channel. How do I access the second channel?
So you access it in your DAW. It
Yeah.
recognizes the two channels automatically.
Okay.
Or you can use our Motive Mix software. It'll
Yeah.
pull it in and give you additional DSP controls. So you can add a denoiser to any microphone, not just one of our mics.
One of
So-
your own denoisers.
Yes.
Great.
So you can
Okay.
add the denoiser via USB to our MV7 Plus that's existing. But now when you plug it
This
in,
is like a smart denoiser, not just a
Yes,
generic gate.
Exactly.
Okay, good.
And it stores to the interface. So when you unplug it, it'll remember those settings. If you're a podcaster, this is kind of, or a live streamer,
Yeah.
whatever, it's a great two-person setup.
Okay.
You buy that, you get an MV7X, which is the XLR variant of the MV7,
How much?
$349.
349. Okay.
And you plug the microphone in, grab a couple of headphones, and that's it. That's your whole setup.
All the dumb questions. I'm really good at the dumb questions, not the smart ones.
No.
Dumb questions. Is it an SM7 capsule?
It's not an SM7 capsule. It's the
Okay.
same one that's in the MV7 Plus.
Okay, the MV7.
So
Okay.
meant to be kind of a nod or a tip of the hat to the SM7, but
Okay.
not the same capsule.
Okay. Marvelous. Just because it looks like an SM7.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
We brought
So-
it out in 2020, the MV7, which was kind of a USB variant
Yep.
meant to be similar to the SM7B, but never the same. That's the legend.
Right.
We don't mess with that one.
Well, we use every single day. We use the one with the. Am I allowed to say cloud lifter type circuitry in it?
Yeah.
Is that
with
the right
the
way of
built-in
describing
preamp.
Yeah.
The SM7DB, which we launched last year.
Yeah, we
and
use that
that
every
one
day.
has the inline pre. Yeah.
Yeah, that's very popular. I hope that's doing well for you because it sounds great.
Thank you. Yeah, we're doing all right.
Okay, good. What, Shure's doing all right after 100 years, Laura?
Yes, still staying relevant, bringing out new things. We have our new Axient digital in-ears at the show,
Yeah.
the ADPSM. That
Great.
thing is insane. We just launched the SLXD Quad, so a 4-channel wireless in a single rack unit.
Nice.
Yeah, it sounds great. Wideband tuning so that you can have multiple options if you're touring all over the country. You don't have to worry as much about RF coordination
Okay.
ahead of the show. And the KSM11 wired. So this microphone we came out with
okay.
2-3 years ago, and it's just the most perfect live vocal mic that I've ever sung through as a
Nice.
vocalist. You don't have to work. It's just the most natural reproduction of the tone.
The ribbons. Are you guys still making
Of course.
ribbon stuff?
Yeah, there's one right behind you on the shelf.
Okay. None of this is scripted, can you tell? None of these questions were prepared. So one of your lovely reps
Mm-hmm.
very kindly showed up in like a station wagon while we were making the Aerosmith record and had like tons and tons of mics. And we had been messing around with the usual suspects on the ribbons. And to say Joe and Brad are, fussy's the wrong word, but they don't. When
Particular?
Well, I just think like logically, if you're like been doing this, now 50 years, but at that point been making records for 30 or 40 years, you kind of want to have some fun.
Yeah.
You know, you don't go into the studio and stick a 57, much as we love them, in front of a cab and go,
No, you want to
that's
try
my
something
guitar.
else. Yeah.
And we had been doing all the usual suspects and ribbons. And Brad in particular wanted to try something new. So
KSM
I think you guys had just started this.
Yeah.
Just
That
if
was
you don't mind
about-
to see, just
it was
purchased it.
10, 12 years ago?
Yeah,
10
it would have
years
been
ago?
12.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this, how can I put this gently? The older guys tend to have very, is that too loud? Very, with a capital V, bright amp settings.
Yes. I know what you're saying. I'm picking up what you're putting down.
You're seeing what I'm spinning all over the place. Yeah. So they tend to have their guitars a little brighter. So
Yes.
ribbon mics are fantastic in those situations.
Absolutely.
They can tame those highs. And we did use all the usual suspects. You can all guess what that is. And they were all great. But this on Brad's guitar was absolutely superb.
That's so fun to know. I
Yeah.
never knew that. That's called the KSM 313 for
Yeah.
those of you playing along at home.
It looks awesome too.
It does look really cool. So we have our ribbons. I don't know if you know this, but it has this thing called Roswellite for our ribbon
Yeah.
technology. So it's actually really durable. Some ribbons are known for being very sensitive and delicate. I mean, if you poke it, let's not do that. But
Yeah.
it's much more durable.
Yeah.
If you put phantom power through it, which we don't recommend, it won't blow it up. So
That was the other sort of point is Brad and Joe.
Oh.
To say they are loud would be the understatement of the decade.
Yes, loud and bright. But
Yeah.
with these, with the 313, it actually has two different characters to how it picks up. So ribbon mics are naturally bidirectional,
Yep,
just in the nature of the beast. So you have your diaphragm here in between, and so bidirectional meaning it's picking up from the rear, front, and the back of the mic.
Yep.
But you have your bright sound and your warm sound. So it's great to put it against the cab and then also face it against the wall
Yeah.
and capture those room reflections. So fun use case for the 313.
And great on toms. We did actually try it on
Yeah.
floor. Joey in that session likes 2 floor toms.
Mm-hmm.
The second floor tom, as you can imagine, doesn't get used that much.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's where the bottle of water goes or
Yeah.
something like that.
Nice.
But I do remember, all joking aside, and that happens all the time.
Right.
But there was a cymbal, like just sitting beautifully between the two, which was a real pain in the butt.
Right.
Now, the great thing about ribbons, as Laura is pointing out, being basically, a figure of 8 pattern, is there's a null point on
That
the sides.
sounds so much cooler. The figure of
So-
8. I'm not English enough to say that.
That's quite right. No, bidirectional makes perfect sense. So if you put the cymbal here, it doesn't bleed.
Oh,
They're
wow.
very directional front
They
and
are
back,
very directional,
which
yes.
is really good. I remember at first when I read about ribbon mics when I was a kid and before I started using them, I was like, oh, that's useless. I don't want to hear the back. Well, you don't really hear the back unless you want to hear the back.
Right.
Because if you've got it close on a speaker, the back is pretty minimal.
Mm-hmm.
If you bring it back on a guitar cab about here, you can start blending in what you're hearing behind.
Exactly.
With toms, it's perfect. If you've got the tom there and the cymbal sitting here, 0 bleed.
Yes.
I do
That's a
not
great point.
believe the null point was so good.
Yeah. So that's the KSM 313. So now you're learning about the MV7i, the KSM 313.
Yep.
Check that out.
I suppose the only other thing. Oh, by the way, these are insane.
Oh, the Beta 181.
Yeah, we had these with the pair. Ooh, Eric might remember. When we did we did a video, 6 years ago now, we went to Sunset Sound, and we used my normal miking setup, and then we stuck up the PGA 7.
Oh, the PGAs, yeah.
Yeah. And we did that, and we had a pair of these on the floor. I think they were 67s or 251s that we were shooting them out against.
Nice.
And a lot of people preferred these.
Lollipop condenser, very underrated microphone.
And also very inexpensive.
Yes.
Bunch
yeah.
of these?
I can't remember the set price for that one, but the Beta 181, there's a couple of variants
Yeah.
that come with different capsule options because you can actually
Yeah.
swap the capsule out. But go to Shure.com for pricing because
No,
I
this
am
is
blanking.
good. I think the way I started getting away from the usual suspects, meaning like, when I was, my original home studio was like whatever I could afford, which was like a 57, a 58, and whatever else was around. And then when I started making records in bigger studios, opening up the world of possibilities, you've got 67s and 87s and 47s, and the world's amazing. but then you get more successful, so your home studio starts to grow.
Yes.
And a lot of the time, I want to stereo mic a piano. I want to stereo mic a room. I want to stereo mic lots of different things. But I really do not want to spend $10,000 on a pair of microphones that
That's fair.
essentially is just room mics.
That's fair. That's a good point.
And that's where those
Oh,
mics win.
Miking piano, stereo
Yeah.
setup, drums,
Yeah.
because they can take a ton of SPL, which
Yeah.
people don't really think for
Yeah.
those. But yeah, that form factor is killer. The Beta 181.
I got to ask Eric and make sure we still have a pair of these. What I love is just got stopped by somebody who's built a recording studio,
Yeah.
6,000 square foot recording studio called The Foundry. Shout out to him in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. It's nice to know that that is happening.
It's happening. It is.
What is he, 30 maybe?
I know, he looked really young.
Yeah,
Good for him.
super. Awesome. So we're going to do a giveaway
Yes.
of the MVI.
MV7i.
7i, of course you should be 7.
I
Yes.
know.
I should have known that. So giveaway. So as usual, you know what to do. Just enter down below. It's a raffle. So it means that you just enter your details and you're entered. But if you want to get more tickets, you can do other things. But you don't have to enter. All right. You just told me you've done this.
Yes. So in collaboration with Black Lion and Cornef Audio, we're
Great.
doing the reissue of the Level Lock. So not only in a plug-in form, but
Yep.
also hardware. It's back.
Amazing. So I have 2 of these, courtesy of Mr. getting mentioned again, Jack Douglas, who told me about these, the original ones.
Yes.
And these are insane. The way that they saturate is just completely unique. It's sort of, it limits and saturates. So for mono mics on kits,
Yeah.
stupid. Like,
Yes.
it's a drum sound that doesn't diminish, it keeps the lows. I think one of the things with a lot of these saturation devices, typically, well, not that this was designed for that, they tended to, all the low end would disappear and they become mid-rangey and you push them in. They're exciting. This could be just the drum sound on its own, for instance, but it's more than that. But yeah, it's an absolutely superb. What is this? So distance selector? 6 foot,
inches,
12
12 or
foot?
18
Oh,
or
in,
more.
oh,
Yeah.
inches, of course. Oh, wow.
Yeah. So some new features, but
Yeah.
same incredible design that you know and love,
Yeah.
brought back.
Amazing.
So the old, the new, the classics, you've worked
Yeah.
with them all.
Yep.
We're trying to decide what we should name our head up there. Sherman, Sherbet.
Why don't you just confuse people and call it Shure but drop the H?
Oh no, that'd be great. Okay, you've heard it here. Sure, without the H. The H is silent. Modeling our SM39 headset.
I
our
mean, it's
brand new.
every geeky, nerdy person when we're talking to each
Yes.
other. We go, sure, and then put the H in, you know.
I might in my
It's a-
phone now when I'm texting, it's no longer SURE.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I gotta watch that at home. But anyway, thank you for being at the Shure booth.
Thank you.
you for
Thanks for
supporting
having us.
And
Thank you.
Yeah, have a great show.
So we're big, bad, and back at Genelec with Izzy again. Izzy, how are you?
Good. How are you, Warren?
Good. Last time we filmed something was only 4 months ago.
Yeah, not
Yeah.
long at all.
Yeah, in sunny New York. Actually, it was beautiful that time of year, even though it's full winter. So what have you got that's new? What would you want to talk to us about?
Well, today here at NAMM, we're showing off our immersive system in this room. So we've got a full 714 setup, and you'll see here we've got the 1 series. So up front, we've got the biggest size, which is the 8361A, and we've paired that with our W371A woofer stand. And we've got the 8351Bs as our sides and our rear speakers. And we have a 1 size smaller, which is the 8341, and we're using that as our 4 height channels.
Nice.
And everything in here has been calibrated using our software GLM. So you just place that microphone in the sweet spot, and it does all its sweeps, and it handles everything for you, and you're all ready to go. So we're
Wonderful.
excited. We have some great presenters this year.
How much correction was needed in this space? Because obviously it's not designed to be for this. Did you have to do a lot of correction with the GLM?
It wasn't too bad, not as
Yep.
bad as you expect. I mean, we've
Okay.
got some low-end energy. That's just what it is because that's where we are.
Yeah.
And you know, when you're in a large room like this, there doesn't need to be a whole lot of EQ applied to make things flat. It's just
Wonderful.
a matter of trying to tame that low end a little bit.
Who's presenting this year?
So we've got numerous presenters. Today we've got Eventide coming in, Justin Gray, we have Sylvia Massey and the Met Alliance coming in.
Wonderful.
And yeah, Alan Meyerson as well. We're super stoked about that too.
Excellent.
So yeah, please check out the schedule.
So I'm sure Eric's going to be using some fancy denoising software, but the difference between being in there and out here, geez, Mary and Joseph, yeah, we are on the pro audio floor at NAMM. Although if we were upstairs with all the other building with all the drums and stuff, it'd be even more insane.
Even worse, yeah.
Great. So a few months ago, we heard the headphones,
Yeah.
which is wonderful. What else do you want to tell us about?
I think that's really what we're showing here today
Okay, good.
is our new personal reference monitoring solution, or we call it PRM, and that comes with the 9320 as well as the headphones. So they
Right.
come as a match pair where that serial number is loaded into that box. And we're similar to what we were doing at AES, we're just showing off the difference between listening on your speakers quite close and then putting on the headphones and hopefully getting a very similar experience. So you can trust those decisions you're making over headphones when you have to.
All right, we're big, we're bad, we're back. We're Music Hack. And the last time we did some stuff was Master Plan.
Yeah.
Which was a lot of fun. And we had quite a deep dive video. Eric, I'm sure we'll put a link down there if you haven't already seen it.
Yeah.
So what is this? Fuel.
Fuel. It's all about instant energy, instant punch, all of the things that you would do to add that to a track. We kind of gathered them together in one place, and we kept our philosophy of like simple, fewer knobs, more about what you want to do, not too much metering in the way. So it's just got a bunch of circuits that are pretty normal for this. Either a compressor that's general purpose or OTT, some upwards compression, bass enhancement, a thick circuit that does all kinds of stuff that kind of brings out a mix, a soft clipper, a little bit of analog crunch, and it all runs through our like best in class limiter, so you can really drive these things and be creative with it. But even though you can go crazy, you can also just move them all a little bit, and you got a really cool tone box.
Excellent.
Pretty neat, yeah.
Can I give it a listen?
Yeah.
All right.
Let's do it.
I want to play with it. I'm sorry we don't have the audio from this. So that's the magic. So unfortunately, sorry you can't hear it, but the magic is destroy it, then bring back the mix control.
Yeah.
And you just kind of add that energy in there.
Yeah.
You know, I absolutely love that. Let's have some fun with this space. Oh, that's really nice.
Say again?
The bass is really nice.
Yeah, we spent a lot of time making that real smooth.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can click on this guy.
What's this? Click on here. Oh!
Yeah, so if you're using it on multiple tracks, like to push buses, you can really quickly just be like, that's the blue one, that's the gray one, that's the red one. I know what I'm doing.
I see. I do like blue. So good. Awesome. As usual, I'm sure you sell bucket loads of these. I mean, I've been saying it since time immemorial that I want plugins to be more straightforward.
Yeah.
And I don't want them to rely on old pieces of equipment anymore.
Yeah.
And look, don't get me wrong, I grew up coveting tape machines, coveting tube this and valve that, and blah, blah, blah. I love all that stuff, but I'm not sure why a 13-year-old kid who's making his first ever beat really needs to learn about 55 different pieces of old gear.
Yeah.
Because we're trying to train to hit. Great tool. Everything sounds fantastic. I love, absolutely love it. How much is it?
The MSRP is $79.99. We got it on sale right now, I think for $59.99. We got that rent-to-own thing, stuff like that. So if you want to stretch it out, you can try it for 10 days. All that stuff's good.
Great.
Yeah.
Great pricing. Fantastic. And I presume we'll get to try out some tracks ourselves and do a proper review.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Of course.
Love you guys to give it, burn rubber, give it a spin, you know?
Excellent, yeah, love it. And we're going to give away 3 copies of this?
3 copies, yeah.
3 copies. So there will be a link down below to win one of 3 copies. It is a raffle. So what it means is you can just sign up and enter. But if you do want to do extra things like go and follow them on Facebook or Instagram, etc., if you want to do that as well, you will get a little extra entered tickets. But you don't have to do that to enter. It's an option. All right. Thank you ever so much.
Yeah,
I really
thanks for
appreciate it. You rock.
We're here with Miguel from DreamTonics and the Vocal Flex and the synthesizer V Studio. Yeah. And fantastic stuff. I actually was able to use Vocal Flex in a production recently with Produce Like a Pro and was testing out some different stuff and just wanted to kind of pick your brain on the different applications of it and everything. And
yeah, so you can use Vocal Flex on all sorts of things. Even if you want to do like background vocals, you can record yourself various times, and you can put Vocal Flex on each one of your tracks, and you can use different voices for it. So you can create your whole chorus out of your own recordings and your own vocals, basically.
That's fantastic.
And also you can use it on live performance. For example, if you load it on Ableton Live, you set lowest latency, you can sing live with it. So
Fantastic.
yeah, it's really great.
Nice. And then tell me about the Synthesizer V Studio.
Well, we are releasing a new version, which is Synthesizer V Studio 2. Unfortunately, we don't know where it's going to drop yet, but we are working on it. It has a lot of new features, but for the people that doesn't know the software, you can take your singer. We have many singers available. You can select your singer, and you can change the characteristics of it. You can ask the singers to do retakes, just like a real singer, you know? When you ask him like, oh, I want you to do the same line but different, with a different timbre, different pronunciation, different pitch. So that kind of stuff. You can really go very deep, make a deep dive into your vocals and create all sorts of things with it. So it's amazing.
That's so cool. Yeah, I was messing around with it a little bit earlier, and it seems like such a rad thing to have in your arsenal, especially like as a songwriter, if you're demoing some stuff out and you want, you know, like if you're a male producer and you want a female vocalist on it, or something like that.
If you want to show like a demo to like a singer or something like that.
Yeah.
If you are like a self-producer and you are, you know, working on some of your songs, but you are not very good at singing, you're very shy or something like that, you can really use Synthesizer V to bring those creations of yours to the next level, where you can see the opening of the mouth. You can, you know, make it very open or really close it if you want to create hums, or if you want to create, you know, all kinds of you can really customize the voice as much as you want. You can alter the phonemes of the pronunciation. For example, you can make the N longer, stronger. You can have the S maybe more present, maybe less.
Wow.
Yeah.
Can you adjust that for every word, like on a word by word?
Yes, that's correct. You can do it for each word.
So cool.
Yeah, it's amazing. Change the pitch of the singer, and you can, you know, generate different points here. So you can really adjust the pitch just the way that you want it, basically. You can really move them. You can move them together, selecting them together and moving them around together. You can draw your own pitch too. If you would like to, you know, just do your own drawings, you can go all crazy with this, you know, basically. And yeah, these are some of the new features that we have with Synthesizer V Studio 2. Unfortunately, it's still not available, but we are working on it. You can see some of our videos for Synthesizer V Studio 1 on DreamTonics.com or on our YouTube channel, DreamTonics.
When I first started doing music production, I had a really tough first client, and I was getting to the point where, like, maybe I just suck at this. Maybe I'm just going to give it up. And your P-Lab, you know, you actually reviewed my song, and I literally said, is like, if Warren hates it, I'm done. I'm quitting this thing. And your feedback was like, really, really good. It's like, I would just EQ the beater, and I think this one is good. And I'm like, if Warren says it's good, I'm going to keep going with it. And so I'm still doing it today. So I want to thank you so much for...
No, that's a great statement, and it does create a great discussion point, and you may have all individually heard me talk about this either inside Produce Like a Pro Academy or online in general. One of my first studios in LA, not my first one, one of my earliest ones in LA, we had like two buildings that we rented, and there was an archway to get into the parking lot, and our actual studio was in the top of the archway. So every time cars went through, you could hear it. And I was doing, I was working with the Bangles, and it was like 99, and they were getting back together to do a record. And Susanna Hoffs was coming in and doing demos, so I'd put down beats and play bass, she'd play acoustic guitar and sing. So we're doing a vocal, and there's the archway, and this massive truck stops and backs into the archway to turn around and go the other way. So we're in the middle of the vocal, and suddenly it's like, meep, 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 like this, and we didn't have any soundproofing and all this kind of stuff. And, you know, that happens, she doesn't stop, we get through it, and I'm like, I think we might have to redo the bridge. And she's like, no kidding, and just like burst into laughter. And we did it. And then, I don't know, 2 weeks later, I'm working with local band, can't remember what they were called, like local band, and we had a similar kind of thing. This time I think it was just like a car pulling in, and it was too loud and all this stuff. And that singer just like flipped out and was like, I can't believe how unprofessional you are, and all this kind of stuff. And this is sort of where we live. You know, there's one person at that point who sold like 17 million albums who just thought it was funny. And then there was somebody who's probably sold 17 albums maybe even to date now, who's like, you know, so offended and stuff like that. So it is really tough because the position you're in when you're dealing with an artist, not necessarily young, but maybe inexperienced, you know, hasn't done many recordings. They're under a lot of pressure that they put on themselves. They're basically, they come in with so much fear, which is one of the main driving forces of most musicians. We could have an hour conversation about that. They come up with so much fear. So if there's anything that in their mind's eye doesn't seem right, which could be anything random and be absolutely nothing wrong with what you've actually done, it means that they are going to be that person that's going to say, oh, this is totally unprofessional and sucks. And it's more to do with the client, unfortunately, than that. And that's another whole skill set. We talk about the psychology of working with artists, which we could all spend an hour just talking about now. But ultimately, your reaction and your experience, I should say, is not unique. Pretty much my ones, but also I think pretty much everybody that comes through the Produce Like a Pro Academy has exactly the same kind of experience once, twice, 3, 4 times. And it is difficult. As you get more experience, they create more latitude for you. They look at your resume, your credit list, and they will maybe question, maybe they're not right about everything. You know, it's a difficult one. But ultimately, I've worked with artists that have sold 70 million albums and freaked out about something silly. You know, artists are artists. And they may get upset about nothing, really blow something out of all proportion, and then in other situations just kind of let it go. I remember doing a full band punch-in on a song on a live recording because the ADATs we were recording to just dropped out, and the band were like, sure. You know, I'm like, it went silent for like 5 seconds. They're like, no problem. They just play along with it. I punch them in, punch them out, and they carried on doing overdubs. But they were an experienced band. They didn't care. It wasn't a big deal. But for a young band, that might have been like, I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to play it again as good. Oh my God, you know. Anyway, do you have any burning desires, any questions?
When first getting into having people want to like kind of use your services and pay you to do mixing, mastering, any engineering, what's your kind of your opinions on how you charge for that and understanding how much to charge, but also seeing the relationship between that and the amount of skill you have, like charging for like the level of quality?
I think you have to figure out what you want to make an hour. And first of all, what I'm going to tell you will go against 99% of the people that work in the industry. If you're going to ask guys and girls that are mainly doing label work, their answer would not help you at all, because their answer is going to be based on a fee, because what they charge, because they want everybody to know that they're $5,000 to do their job. So one job might come in and it's a vocal and acoustic guitar, and they still make $5,000. Next one comes in, it's got like 164 frickin' tracks of orchestra and background vocals and choir and a band live and some programming stuff, and they're still charging $5,000. That's their fee. So sometimes they win and it's an easy day and they make a lot of money, 3 acoustic songs in 4 hours, and life's great. But for you, where you're at, because you're not trying to establish an industry-wide price, you've got to think about how much is your time worth. And your question was good because you actually went quite deep on it. I like that, because on the second part of it is like the kind of value against your own abilities. And that's a very, very important one. I think if I was mixing at a semi-professional kind of level, you know, like not expecting to be Crystal Dowds, you're definitely not expecting to be like somebody like Bob Clearmounting, but also knowing that you're not going to be amateur, that you're going to provide something which is pretty pro and slamming, and you're going to put a lot of time and effort into it. You know, I'd probably be thinking it's a $400 or $500 kind of mix, and a lot of independent people are getting that, no problem. That's pretty typical. I've told that to a lot of people, and they were actually quite surprised. But, you know, that might be a day and a half for you on one song, and it might be 3 hours for me. But it doesn't matter. That's long as the result is worth that, then great. So why I say how much an hour, because you don't want to be in a situation where you're working on something for 3 days and you've charged $200 for it. And you're sitting there going, I just made $5 an hour. I might as well go back and flip burgers, you know. So try to get a balance between making sure that you make enough an hour and that you value yourself properly so it's a sustainable business, you know, so that you can actually do it all the time. And you'd be amazed at just how many people are actually making $500 a mix you've never heard of. I have built a business based on kind of a war of attrition, like doing a lot of different stuff and always being able to morph and do whatever it takes. Like, I've mixed so many live records, it's ridiculous. I've mixed a Ramones live record. I mixed a Joe Strummer live record. I've mixed a Chili Peppers live record. I mixed Alive and Burning and recorded, what's the name of the band? Black Veil Brides, you know, like, and then these were all, Black Veil Brides album was the #1 selling music DVD of the year. All of these kinds of stuff. And all of them really, none of them like kind of made me famous in that genre, but they taught me so much skill. I was able to price it out that essentially, once I get into the role of an album, for instance, that estimation of, you know, 8 hours a song, it's like 7. Usually the first song takes 2 days to mix. Second song takes a day, and then the third song takes half a day. And then by your 10 song, you know, if you're doing a 10 song, especially with an album that's recorded, a modern rock album, which is usually like 2 guitars, bass drums, 2 guitars, bass drums, overdubs, you know, the formula starts to come in. You're on day whatever 5 of the record, and you're mixing 3 songs in a day. You know, so it's thinking about that. It's like understanding what it takes. So when you price it out, you think to yourself, well, how many days work this is going to be? It's going to get easier the more you do. It honestly is. But my #1 thing is do not underprice yourself. If you suddenly start getting into a situation where you feel like you're working for $5 an hour, you will not love it, you will not enjoy it, and you won't do your best work. So everybody loses. They get crappier work. You get super frustrated. You can't feed yourself, and you're working 2 weeks on a project that you thought was going to take 3 days. So, you know, always go higher than you think, and always be a little bit pessimistic about how long it's going to take. You know, and the other thing is, honestly, put a cap on recalls. Put a cap on recalls. It's funny. Daryl did a video for us, Daryl Thorpe, the other day, and he started talking about how many recalls, like 14 recalls. And for Daryl, he's 99% of the way there on the first mix. So when people are recalling things, they're like, can you turn the hi-hat up like half a dB in the second verse? That's what he's doing. So when he says 14 recalls, he means like I opened it up and did one move and then did a bounce. For most of us, you know, for when you're coming up, a recall could be like pretty much like only keep the bass sound. We hate everything else. You know what I mean? And then so you redo the drums, and then they're like, I hate the snare. So you put a snare sample in. That's recall #3. Then recall #4 is like, okay, now the drums sound good and the bass is okay. We've got to retrack the guitars. Can you take the DI and put it through an amp? So, you know, his idea of 14 recalls is probably 20 minutes of work. But for many people coming up, that could be like 3 extra days. So putting a cap on recalls says, you know, maybe you do 5 recalls max, and then afterwards they have to pay an hourly. That's another good tip. So they get 5 opportunities to get it the way they want it. And when recall #6 comes in, because the background singer doesn't like the fact that, you know, you pan their vocal over to the other side, you're like, yeah, sure, that's half an hour to redo that and bounce this. And that will make them a little bit more focused about what cool recalls they want to do as well.
Would you focus more on the technicality of mixing or the feel?
Great question. I just wrote a whole blog about that on the plane yesterday. The thing about the feel versus the technicality stuff is once you've got the technical down, you can concentrate on the feel. It's really it. You know, once you can get down a really great, if that's what you're looking for, a slamming drum sound in a rock song, for instance, or a rock-ish song with a really consistent low end of a bass guitar with the electrics, the acoustics, the keys or whatever, just sitting beautifully above that without too much low end kind of schnizzle going on, and suddenly you've got these instruments in a place where they all make sense. Then you can start thinking, well, you know what? I want it to be more intimate in the first verse. I want everybody to be sucked in and hear the vocals. So maybe you mute everything down, except for the piano and the vocal, or the acoustic guitar and the vocal, or the synth line and the vocal, whatever it is. And you start, you know, then you can start thinking in those terms. You can start thinking of like, I want to take people on a journey, or the opposite. You want to hit them over the head, smash them on the head, and then suck it all away from them and make them feel anxious. Classic rock, you know, is always like the end of a song, like you think of sock. The end of a song, like a Aerosmith or a Zeppelin song, it's always the battle between the singer and the guitar player. They're both soloing and yeah, baby, woo, over stuff. And that tension of having the vocal just maybe a little bit quieter than electric guitar that's sometimes over the top, actually adds to the kind of anxiety and stuff like that. Then thinking about archetypes of like, I want tension in my song, like the marching drum, really quiet in that verse. It's going to make you feel a little bit tense. Like, what is that? You know, but those things all come with the technical. You know, learn your DAW so you're lightning fast. Nobody's going to give you a medal. Oh, you're really good at your DAW. Great. Now you can start doing your job. That's the way I look at it, you know. Understand the technical, the relationship between low frequencies of instruments, creating space and stuff like that. Now you can create. Now you can worry about the creativity. But at the same time, everything I'm saying is a bunch of bollocks if you think about it, because like Raw Power by Iggy and the Stooges is one of the best, worst sounding songs ever. It's awful in a technical sense. But when the band comes in and then the lead guitarist comes in, literally 6 dB louder than anything else on it, it is the most offensive thing you've ever heard in your life, which makes it amazing. So there is lots and lots of things that oppose what I'm saying. And they can live together. They can live together where Redemption Song is like a really badly played acoustic guitar. But FB, doesn't that make it amazing? The Bob Marley is bum, 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 you know, oh, man, it's just a rabbi. That song would not be that song without that kind of slightly out of tune, fretting out acoustic. It makes it more real and honest. So all of these things have to be done together, but I think like anything in life, if you understand the technical, you're really good at it, you then choose when to apply that knowledge. But having the knowledge is the thing. So get the knowledge, get the technical skills together, then decide when do I need it, when do I don't need it. Well, maybe I like that kind of like out-of-tune guitar. I'm going to keep it, you know?
I can't record obviously where I live, so I always have to rent a room somewhere. And
Yep.
I never have enough time. I set up, I get my mics going, I play, and by the time I'm all done with that, I have to take it down and get out of there, right?
Yeah.
So I always have a problem with hi-hat leakage. That's my main problem. So
Into your snare or?
Yeah, on the snare, you know, you hear the hi-hat, it's on everything. So I'm thinking of going simple, like a Glenn Johns technique. What 3 mics would you recommend I use for that setup?
See, I don't know. To me, that seems counterproductive, because if your hi-hat is leaking into other mics, it would seem that a 3-mic set would make it even worse.
Well, no, because then I wouldn't have to like try to isolate the snare. It'd be like a collective mix down of just.
But hi-hat bleed into a snare says to me that the hi-hat's too loud for the snare.
Well, it's probably me because I use heavy sticks. And
Yeah.
I have, like,
So all that's going to happen with when you don't have individual control of the snare, now the hi-hat's going to be even louder than your perceived overheads.
Well, they did it on Led Zeppelin 1. How did they do it? I mean, he's a big head.
John Bonham was one of the most balanced drummers that ever lived.
Oh, really?
Just so balanced.
Okay.
I mean, I worked with Joey Kramer, great drummer if you don't care about the kick. Sorry, Joey. You know, because he lays the kick pedal in like this. It's just going to go thud. Excuse me, thud. When Bonham hits it, he goes boom, boom. It just hits it and it brought it back. So even when he's doing this fast stuff, the beat is always back and the kick is developing in the room and it's massive. Joey just kind of goes thud, 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 thud. But when he plays the snare, Joey, he lays the stick across the rim and the center at the same time. He also uses a massive, like, you know, he loves the bell brass kind of, or snares like that. So his kick is like doom, clang, doom, clang. And it's just the loudest thing. Every single mic on the kit in the whole room just hears snare, 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 you know. And that's one of the most famous drummers in the world. So, you know, that's where the mixer and the production stuff comes in. You couldn't put 3 mics on Joey. There's no 3 mics in the world in any position in the world that would make that sound good. It would just be the snare drum mix. So in that situation, you know, you're the drummer. You're just going to have to tell yourself, hey, Mr. Drummer, don't smash the hi-hat. So, or frankly, just get yourself some thinner, lighter hats. Get some hats up. Yeah.
But I like my 2002s. They sound great. Should I just use thinner sticks? Like
I love 2002s. I love a 2000. I'm a Bonham fanatic as well. On the ride, that's the best simple ever. The 20 or the 22-inch. I have both. They're amazing. I would go Zildjians. I actually use the cheapest, what are they called? The New Beats. Yeah, I have a New Beats on the hat, and I haven't found a drummer yet that has played them loud enough to completely destroy the snare. What snare do you have?
It's a Ludwig.
Is it a Supraphonic?
No, it's a wooden one, actually.
Get a metal snare, there you go.
Oh, okay.
You know, this is a common kind of thing. It's really interesting. Whenever we do videos and we solo drums out, whether it be me or Joe Carrell or Mark, Daniel Nelson, everybody always makes a comment, I can't believe that snare is ringing so badly. Have you ever heard a Beatles drum set in solo? That snare's like, doing, doing. In the track, it's doof, doof, doof.
Yeah.
It's like, you know what I mean? So a big, ringing, loud metal snare in a track might just be absolutely perfect. Even jazz drummers, you listen to some of those guys, their snare is like ringing like absolute crazy, you know, but you wouldn't think that. You would think it was all completely dampened and perfect. I think that's a big misconception.
Like maybe instead of a 57, some kind of like hypercardioid way.
Yeah, I mean,
I think Biodynamics makes one.
yeah, there's the 201s. There's all kinds of really, really good microphones for that. You could experiment. You could strap a small pencil condenser to the snare. I mean, the reality is you should be able to do it with a 57. Now, is that the best mic for the purpose? Not necessarily, but the point I'm trying to make is if a 57 is getting too much hi-hat bleed and the snare's not more powerful, it's not the 57's fault. It might not be the exact best. Maybe you'll get a 1% improvement or a 2% improvement with all these different mics we're talking about. But really, the bigger improvement is always going to come from the instrument itself and the way it's performed. So get a snare that's big. It sounds like you need a snare that's a little bit more aggressive. You know, if you go for at least a Supraphonic or, you know, a Black Beauty or something that's going to have some real ring to it. And then some lighter snares, some darker snares. Hi-hats. I think new beats would be fine. Not expensive at all. You know, with your 2002 on the ride and your crashes and stuff, I think you'll be in a... And just being conscious of it. Dave Mattox, do you remember I interviewed him? It was really good. I'd heard this story through the grapevine that he had been recording with Glyn Johns. And the story goes, I didn't even read it. Somebody told me this. And I had the balls to ask him whether it was right or not. Not even something I read, you know, like a rumor. I don't know why I felt I could do it. But I said to him, I heard this rumor that you did a record and Glyn was recording you with 3 mics because he was like Glyn's favorite session drummer. And I heard the story that you came in and you said to Glyn, oh, my cymbals are too loud. And he looked at you and said, yeah, don't hit them so hard. And he goes, yeah, that happened. There's your answer. So why did Bomb and Drums sound so good? It had nothing to do with the miking. They would have sounded crap if you'd hit the cymbals too hard, and we would have been sitting there going, do, ga. You know what I mean? And that's Dave Mattox, one of the greatest drummers in the world, being told off by Glyn Johns. So.
You did a Sweetwater thing about a year ago, best mics, best preamps. Remember that one? Best EQs. I rewatched that recently, and I took your advice. You said start off with a 1073 and then 1176. Oh
yeah, I mean, I could make every single producer, engineer, and mixer I've ever met in my life that's worth the salt that we all like will tell you there's key components. A U87, and of course other manufacturers doing it, but a U87, a 57, a 1073, a DBX 160, and an 1176, they can make any record ever made. Those 5 pieces of gear. Doesn't matter what the record is. That's all they need. I mean, multiples of all those different things, but that's it. Those 2 compressors work in such different ways. Combined together, they can just limit and make things glue exactly where you want. Those 2 microphones perform in completely different ways. They can do anything. And everybody's selling gear that's different. And don't get me wrong, you know, API 312s, they're all great and fantastic. But just you just hear that, you know, the thousands of interviews and discussions I've had with people, you come back to that. I said that to Alex Valentine about 5 years ago at NAMM. We were talking about, you know, 1073s, talking about how you just click them once up so they start to distort, then click them back one where it's not audible, but you know it's still pushing harmonics, and then put it down to a 160 and like tapping it, and then 1176 on 20-to-1 catching peaks. And he's like, yeah, it's pretty much everything I've ever recorded. Jack Douglas, Jay Messina, Shelley Yakos. I mean, the list is endless, all the British guys, everything. Now, there are lots of other things you can buy, and they all do really, really great. But coming back to just 5 pieces of gear. And bearing in mind, with the exception of like a stereo piano, once you've done drums, you're using 1 channel. You know, it's very rare. I mean, yes, you might want to print a DI, but then of course, if you've got your interface and you've got some nice outboard, you can still like split into your interface and use the DI, the JFET input into that from your guitar from a DI box. And then Bob's your uncle. A lot of interfaces now have ways of outputting. You can plug into that, yeah, and then come out of that and go into your other chain as well. Yeah.
Very quick question.
Yes.
What is your favorite, like, super cheap, maybe not even studio-related piece of gear? In the studio environment, but like, is it a sticky hand on the drum? Is it a gaff tape as a weight? Like, what's your cheap gear hack that you like, that you have in the studio all the time?
That's a great question. That's a really good question. You should ask Eric what he thinks when he sees all the recordings I've done over the years. I think it's just knowing the individual instrument you've got and how you can cheat with it. So, for instance, like I love Nashville tuning guitars. You know what I mean? It's like if I have 2 electric guitars, one's Nashville strung. If I have just knowing stuff like that, like heavy guitars, everybody likes baritone guitars because they're kind of sitting between a bass and an electric. Before I even knew what a baritone guitar was or even thought about using it, I was making records with Dave Jordan, who said, oh no, every single guitar part I've ever done, I just mirror it on a D string of a bass guitar through the amp distortion, but also taking a wire and going, finding that place where it's just like, and it just glues the bass and the electric guitars. And all he does is just take the D string on the bass and just play the root notes of it. So to me, it's like, those are the kinds of hacks that don't really cost anything. Like suddenly now I can build a massive guitar sound with a bass guitar, playing bass, and also playing the part, doing the baritone line between it. And to be honest, it sounds better than a baritone because it doesn't have that loose detuned thing. It has a D string, solid on a bass. And you mirror that, it glues the whole thing together. Nice. And that's all of the Alice in Chains records. You listen to all those Alice in Chains guitars, that's all a D string on a bass through a wire pedal distortion, amp distortion. You use the same guitar amp you track the guitars with. It sounds absolutely awesome. So I think that's kind of the hacks I would think of. I mean, otherwise, it's microphone-wise, there are things that I absolutely love, but, I think the CMV 563 is one of the greatest mics ever made. The 691, the Gefell, you used to be able to buy those from Eastern Germany, or the Eastern Bloc, on eBay like 20 years ago for like $300, and they're some of the best made guitars. You could buy 582s for $500, which are basically KM 53s, 56s, and 54s. Like now, $10,000 microphones, you used to be able to buy them for a few $100. So there was always those things. I don't think any of that world exists anymore. I don't think there's any super cheap kind of piece of equipment. Except one thing. If you've got a studio and you want to record drums and you've got the space to do the drums, just go out and buy a mid-80s to mid-90s console, because you can get an Allen Heath, a Soundtrax, Soundcraft, any of those, even a DDA console now for probably about $1,000, which used to cost anywhere from $5,000 to $70,000, which has great mic pre's that nobody wants anymore. And talk about a cheap way of getting a crap ton of mic pre's, especially if you've only got like a 4-input device. There's no 4 inputs, there's 8, but you know what I mean? And you want to submix your drums down, and you just want a lot of really nice mic pre's. It's like somebody walks into your home studio and they see a console, especially like maybe an 80s console with proper EQs.
Tascam 2400, exactly.
Yeah, that's a good hack. I had a TAC Scorpion. I did like a Frey record. Most of the drums on that, or at least drums on the big songs, were done with a TAC Scorpion and some outboard 1064, 1272 kind of BAEs as well. But essentially, and it felt like a studio. People would come in and see a console. It cost me $750 to look like a proper studio. So we're here at RADIAL with Austin. And Austin, you have something fun for those people that have pedal boards live, and they've got this new amp simulation that they stick on the end.
Yeah, absolutely. So we actually have 2 new products to show everybody here. We'll just take a quick little peek over here. So we have our brand new Highline and Highline stereo line isolators. We'll just place these right here just for convenience. Essentially, these are designed, as you said, Warren, for using with amp sim pedals. So things like UAFX, Tonex, Strymon Iridium, et al. These are your boxes here. We have our mono Highline and our stereo Highline stereo. To give a quick breakdown, DI boxes are generally designed to accept unbalanced instrument level, high impedance. With these line isolators, they are designed for line level, low impedance. So they work really well with the outputs of these amp sims. They use 1-to-1 Jensen transformers inside, so you get not only ruler flat frequency phase response as well as low THD and good signal handling, 1-to-1 signal from input to output. So what you put into it is what you get out. Both the Highline and Highline stereo also can accept either unbalanced or balanced inputs. Nice. So even something from a Kemper or Axe effects can also be used with this, so you can actually retain its benefits. To give you a quick rundown of the Highline, obviously it's a pretty simple box since it's mono. We have input and through jacks, again, either balanced or unbalanced connections. A sum button, so that turns the through out into another input. If you maybe have stereo outputs from a modeler that you want to sum down to mono, you just hit that, you're good to go. Otherwise, Neutrik XLR output, ground lift for lifting pin 1 in case you run into some hum and buzz.
Great.
Overall, pretty simple. What you see on the tin is kind of what you get. Highline stereo, its sister product, obviously since it's stereo, got a bit more going on. So let's dive into that. When it comes to Highline stereo, you know, when we designed these products, we wanted them to be able to properly fit on a pedal board as it kind of goes from right to left. So we actually devised the input and through jacks to work in that sort of sense. So usually our input jacks are at the bottom here, but instead we move them over to the right. So you can easily access them with 90-degree jacks and make quick and easy connections. So you've got 1/4 inch left and right inputs here. Your left and right through outputs here for feeding to any sort of like flat response monitor or any sort of personal monitoring. And then we have a series of sum switches here, which really help kind of drill down the interfacing part of this. We have a through sum, which basically will sum your through outputs together and provide a mono output at both connections. So you could use either one. And then you have the XLR sum as well, which basically takes the XLRs, provides a summed mono output, and again spits it out through both XLRs. So, for example, in this section, if you're maybe running short on channels on a mixing board, you can hit that. You can hit the XLR sum. If you maybe want to actually feed an additional stage amp, or you want to just bypass your amp sim and use your pedal board, maybe with a tube amp, you can hit the through sum. You don't have to unplug anything. That's the biggest thing here. You don't have to change anything. Your pedal board can stay wired as it is. You just hit a switch, add a cable, you're good to go. Otherwise, on the back here, we have our left and right XLR outputs. Again, all Neutriks and a lift button here. We're really proud of these boxes. You know, they carry the Jensen brand name that we have been touting for so long. And it's a nice addition to our series of isolators that we already have, and a nice addition to all our pro audio solutions. So,
excellent.
Really stoked on these.
Chris said, choose some music to play. So we chose 3 songs each.
Snoopy and the Red Baron.
Snoopy and the Red Baron was the first one, of course. The floor is yours.
What should I play? I'll play this one. This is an artist. It's just a record we had a lot of fun with. And she's an independent artist. It's not one of those records where a lot of people even heard it, but it doesn't matter because you're really proud of it. You know what you and the band and her and everyone else accomplished, and we're just really, really proud of it. And it's we kind of felt like it was. She doesn't sound like Stevie Nicks, but we kind of had the Fleetwood Mac vibe. You know, kind of heavily acoustic driven. Yeah, I mean, you can. Well,
is there a Nashville acoustic in there too?
Yeah, that is. Yeah, there's a high string. Yeah, that's Joel. That's my buddy Joel Key. He's a great studio player there.
Has that real width of guitar. I love it. Yeah, very nice.
And maybe she's got a really powerful voice. And we were doing what you talked about doing. You drive the preamp to just, here's distortion. Just a little bit south of there, and when she gets really loud at times, you can hear that Neve transformer kind of, doing that thing. But instead of, for that album, there's some records where that's not appropriate, right? You want it to be ultra clean, but for her album, it's like a little bit of that grit. It's like just adds to what she does. We have a ton of great studio players here. When you think of New York in the 70s and LA in the 80s and 90s and the Jeff Porcaros and the, just that kind of a thing. I kind of feel like we're really lucky in Nashville right now that we kind of have that deal where we have a lot of the greats of our era are there because of how much studio work is still going on, rhythm section wise, where they still play together as a group. You know what I mean? Because they love those guys. That's what they want to do. If they have their druthers, it's great to be paid to come to somebody's house and play an overdub. Because it's still a payday. But really, what they want to do is get in the room with other musicians of their caliber and create something from scratch where they all have input and they're all excited to be in the room. And we just had that kind of a vibe going of creativity. I'm listed on the record as the producer, but it's one of those deals where he knows where the whole room is the producer. The whole room becomes, the guitar player, the acoustic guitar player, the drummer. Everybody's got ideas, and everybody's feeding off each other's ideas and welcome to, you know what I mean? Even though I'm supposed to be the one in charge, feed me. Tell me what you got in mind, and if me and the artist like it, we're going with it. And 90% of the time, they're so great at their craft and they're so experienced. Their ideas are great usually, so they become part of the record, and then it makes me listed as a producer look way better than I really am, way smarter than I really am. But it was one of those, just a really great, just such a memory of creating something with a group full of, a room full of friends, all playing at the same time, seeing it come from nothing but an acoustic guitar and vocal demo to a full production. And that's still one of my favorite things about doing this for a living. Yeah. Is as fun as it is to mix it and finish it off, and mixing is such an awesome thing. Seeing it born on the front end is still pretty special. Pretty special.
I agree. It's almost like every player that you choose is like the producer of their own instrument.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. They're there because you trust them. And even if you, I'm sure you probably at times, you're a great guitar player yourself, but you're looking for a specific thing, so you hire a guy that does a specific thing, and you trust him, even though,
Yeah, I always make the joke that when David Levita or Greg Surround or Tim Pierce play slightly behind, I'm like, wow, what great feel. Yeah. When I play behind, I've got to tighten it up.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, it's very difficult with your own performance to be objective. It's so easy when you hire somebody and you realize, I'm able to stand back and take the 30,000 foot view or whatever they call it. And it's just wonderful. I agree with you. It's like you've got everybody in that position is their own individual producer. Their only focus is to get their job done to the highest possible level. And when I do play guitar on recordings, it's usually meat and potatoes. I come to mix and I think I need to put a rake on the downbeats of the chorus instead of going, it's not. It's just lifting the chorus, But there's plenty of things that I've done where I've played all the instruments, but there's nothing more fun than. You make records in a couple of days. Nashville happens every day.
Oh yeah. We cut. There's lots of days we're in Nashville we're working 3-hour time blocks. So there's usually like a 10 to a 1. And then we take a lunch break, start from 2 to 5, and then go from 6 to 9, kind of thing. And in those 3-hour time blocks, there's, hits that you hear on the radio, like that are big records that they cut maybe 4 or 5 songs in that 3-hour block. And like, the level of musicianship is that high. I'm not bragging on them. It's just, it inspires me as an engineer to be in the room thinking, I got to be as good and in command of my own, area as they are of their instrument in their area, and it's inspiring. It really is, and I think that's awesome. To me, that's one of the gifts of being in the room with other great musicians and things like that. Is how you feed off of each other and make each other feel and want to be great. When you're in your own room all the time working by yourself, it's you're your own inspiration, and that's all you got, and so you have to, some people, I think there's some of us better at that than others as far as self-inspiration,
Well, my next track is Green Mountain State. Now, I like using this song for many reasons, and it's weird because it's morphed into a bigger story than just the song. So what this is, it's an artist called Trevor Hall. Lots of Americans think I'm saying Horn, H-O-R-N, but it's Hall, H-A-L-L. Now, Trevor, if anybody doesn't know who he is a massive independent artist. I think the last time I was on Spotify looking him up was a couple of days ago, and he had 1.8 million followers a month.
Is that all?
Yeah, as an independent artist.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And most independent artists I work with are making good money. In the hundreds, sometimes 200,000, and they're doing well. He's a 7-figure a year artist. Completely independent. Now, he did have a record deal, but he's continued from strength to strength. He's still absolutely massive. I like talking about that because it sets it up and says, look, when people tell you that you can't make any money, it's like you can if you have the work ethic like he does. Now, this album, he played, with the exception of me, who played electric guitar, but outside of me playing electric guitar, he played every instrument. So he played the drums, that's not true. We did bring in a stand-up bass, brought in a double bass. But otherwise, it's all him. And I like this album because it's so much openness. And this is the album when most people say to me, what's your favorite album you've ever done? They think I'm going to say one of the big records. And I go, no, this one. This is my favorite album I've ever made. So the things about that for the vocal is like I just literally took, like, there's compression on it, but there's also not compression on it. Most of what I did was, when I printed my usual 116 to 1176. So I would get like a soft amount of compression, and then the peaks were being caught by the 1176 on a limit mode. So it was going down pretty fat and even. But then when I came to mix, I spent a good 2 or 3 hours just going through, listening, and going, oh, that syllable's a little quiet. And then just went through. And so most of what you're hearing there is it hitting the SSL, tapping the compressor all the time. I don't mean like slamming. It literally is just doing this the whole time. There's no like, it's just doing the same thing. So everything was even. So no resonant frequencies on it. A bit of high passing, a bit. And the other thing I like to do is I like to open up the top end and DS, and then open up the top end again, and then DS, and then open. And it creates this kind of halo of air around the vocal without ever kind of ripping your ear out.
Yeah, I don't like that sound.
Yeah. Now, but this is pre like OX sound, pre any of those. This is, this is 10, 12. No, it was after the Aerosmith. So, yeah, about 9 years ago, 10 years ago. Yeah, 9 or 10 years ago. So there wasn't some of the fancy plugins now. But even then, I still like the idea of like opening up the high end on the vocal, and as long as you're not pulling up the offensive frequencies, it just seems to add an air around everything. Like everything. It's like it's hard to express. It's almost like the low end has high end on it. Do you know what I mean? Everything just kind of
air, presence, whatever. Almost fancy word.
And then two other things that I would do is there's a low octave on it, which is about this loud, and there is the Mofoda by Waves, which does this. So it adds like an artificial whisper track, because I've done whisper tracks as well. You go back and listen to a lot of stuff. But this one I didn't want to have a whisper track go along with the vocal, but I wanted to make it feel like it. So I was a fader on the SSL that had a low octave and a whisper track in it, and actually a distortion track that was so low. But that was all blended in against this nicely clean kind of thing. So it was like, I liked it because I had like a clean, perfect, didn't have to be compressed vocal, and then some absolute destruction going on around it that I could control and bring in. So there wasn't that sort of random thing on a vocal where it's like, ladies and gentlemen, Blake Douglas. Woo! That's Jack Sub.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. He's Blake Douglas, for those who don't know, is a pretty switched on guy. He runs a lot of studios out here, builds studios out here. I'm sure Chris knows him very well. Like, runs all of No ID stuff. No ID, anybody a No ID fan, producer? Yeah, massive producer, like real knows his schnizzle. But anyway, guys like that kind of fly under the radar, they've got their fingers in 1,000 things. But to me, so you have this controlled, beautiful, even vocal that doesn't need much to it, and then controlled chaos. And I got the idea from Blake's dad. So Jack told me, although he's now denies it because I think he doesn't want people to know some of the secrets, but it's kind of a joke between us. But he told me on Lennon's vocal, they wanted to add an energy to the vocal, and John liked to double track him because he hated the sound of his own voice, which is comical for all of us that are Beatles fans. Like, how can John Lennon hate his own voice? So what he did is he took a crowd noise of like this, and I've got video of it, so he can't really deny it. And they got it off a record, off of a vinyl, this crowd noise, and they looped it, and then they gated it to the lead vocal. So it's like, imagine all the people. It's like, and it's blended in underneath. So you've got this kind of like, you're singing lightly, and behind is like this kind of, but it's like controlled chaos. That's cool. And it's weird because when I worked with Dave Jordan, he was talking about like Alice in Chains records and stuff like that. And he said that the sound he always went for in his head, was he wanted it to sound like it was a controlled spring being held down, like this. So So every sound that you heard sounded like it was trying to like get out.
Trying to get away.
Yeah, so it wasn't that you couldn't hear the compression like choking it. Like, you couldn't hear like a word like going loud and then suddenly go, ugh. It just had this kind of like energy, spring underneath. It was just in there, so everything just kind of felt like that, like it was just trying to jump out of you. Oh, great. It's interesting how like all these guys independently all come up with the same kind of idea, where they just want that energy in there. Don't want it to overpower, but they just want it to be there. Yeah. Anyway, that's, and it's also just because that was recorded in our studio in Laurel Canyon, and you know, again, a song, an album that you make over certain weeks, and that you record and you mix and you engineer. So that's what's great about it. So you know it so intimately. So like you're saying, you can go into the room with the speakers you don't know, in a room you don't know, and go, oh yeah, that sounds close.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
The floor is yours.
Okay, I think I'll play. All right, as engineers, it seems like most of the tutorials, most of the influence stuff you see online concerning you know, plugins or hardware, it's always in just a couple of genres of music, right? Have you guys noticed that? It's always going to be rock, it's always going to be hip hop or pop, right? It's like they ignore the fact that there's a lot of us are going to make our living, or at least a big chunk of our living, completely outside of that. We find ourselves in other niches. One niche that I found for myself that I think has made me a really good living.
Hawaiian death metal.
Is Hawaiian death metal. Ukuleles ran into a TR-808 kind of thing. No, actually, it's heavily orchestrated music. So,
beautiful.
Yeah, all the way from like Walt Disney to you name it. But this is a Broadway star. Her name is Stephanie J. Block. And she was like in Wicked and all that kind of stuff.
Amazing.
And so I've kind of found a niche in like that world. And wow, you have to use all aspects of engineering. I mean, like all aspects. Because I track the rhythm section, I get to track the orchestra.
Incredible.
And I have to mix it all. So, you know, it's, for me, being a big fan of being a big fan of
real work
of engineering. You know what I mean? I'm just a fan of the art and a fan of the craft. And so I love some of the old timers that used to be able to just do all that stuff. Al Schmidt, right? Anybody a big fan? Okay, I'm a big fan of his. You know, for example, and so knowing that he could just. I always admired the fact that he could dominate anything that you know what I mean? Any genre, an orchestra being cut at the same time as a rhythm section, whatever, bring it on. And I'll mix it too, you know, I'm just that cool. So I want to be as cool as Al Schmidt. So anyway, that said, I'm not as cool as Al Schmidt. But I think a lot of us forget that there's a whole world out there of film music, film trailers, video games, artists, like, you know, lots of music has orchestral elements in it. So if you get skilled in recording strings, recording brass, recording woodwinds, and mixing it along with rhythm sections and things like that, there's a niche there that can be a money-making avenue for a lot of us, right? You know, because it's very it's challenging. Which if you're a real fan of the craft of engineering, is awesome, right? You want to be challenged. You want to think, okay, this is 120 whatever tracks, so many things speaking at one time. How can I make this sound great? And when you do it, you feel really bad to the bone. You know, you feel like you've really accomplished something. And but like, you know, there's just a real niche out there that I don't think people talk about. That if you're good at it, there's real money, real income as well. It's treated me well and my team well. You know, being you know. Qualified.
It's daunting.
Qualified to do this. Yeah.
No, you're 100% right. It is daunting. I mean, the first string session I did, I was just like, you know, because I think it's yes, there's tons of people, lots of personalities, loads of instruments,
and lots of money exchanging hands.
Oh my God!
Because the room is full of a lot of well-paid people.
Oh God, I think I was talking to when I interviewed Junkie XL. He had done, I don't know, whatever, I don't remember what it was, one of those huge, you know, blockbuster comic book Marvel things.
Yeah.
And I think it was like 2 days of orchestration.
Yeah.
And it was like over $100K a day.
I believe it.
Because you had the room, which was like whatever, thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
Every single player.
But I know it's hard.
You don't want to mess that up.
No, you don't want to mess it up, and there is some nerves built into that. But once you get comfortable at it, you know. I don't know. I think that a lot of us have that same thing. Don't you? Sometimes you feel like you just want to dominate something, and and once you get good at it, and the room is full of people, and you know that you and your assistant are driving the train. It's not the conductor. It's you. Because if the control room isn't on it, no one's on it. And when we can just be there like that on those orchestra days, you end orchestra days on a real rush. I mean, like a real high. If when the players are leaving the room, they're complimenting everything, like you feel like you've really done something. Because they're not that personality type to come up and just shoot the breeze for no reason. So if on the way out they say, man, Ken sounded good, or man, the pre-roll was always spot on, or whatever, you're like, woo!
It's all about prep, isn't it? I remember doing we were working with David Foster, and
oh man, that's one of the kings of that work.
And it was just like, I went into, and Diane Warren wrote the song. And it was at Diane's studio.
Yeah.
And I remember I went in 3 days beforehand and got everything set up. And David, obviously being a world-class piano player, so I had stereo mic piano and got it absolutely incredible. And I just wanted it, so when he walked over and did this, or picked up that and hit that, it was all just done.
Yeah. Most of the time, I will say, it seems like the arranger is either the producer or very heavy involved in the production team. So, which means that they know what they wrote. So
yeah,
they know.
Arrange is an understatement.
Yeah.
I mean, some of these guys and girls that are arranging strings are absolute geniuses.
Oh, it's boggling. Big band jazz, like those brass charts. Oh my God, the intelligence that goes into that. But what I was going to say is, the reason I don't work like what you were just saying some of the other guys have, is since the arrangers are involved, they know what they wrote. Will this thing just stop? So since they know what they wrote, they know at bar, they're going to say, hey, bar 53, I need more of this. I need more of this. So if I'm the one that started on it from scratch, I can give them exactly what they asked for.
Right.
And I can make them happy. If they're happy, then they come back, and spend more money.
Talking of mixing and working on headphones, which increasingly we all do because we're traveling, and
that's the thing, yeah.
I did play around with a little bit with some room emulations, and I still like them. There's a few things, but ultimately, when I'm in an environment with open backs, much better way of working.
Oh yeah.
But you can't really be doing this on the plane, probably.
Probably not, but
although I probably would.
That's the thing, though. Now most of us have something like this Audient box right here that we can travel with a laptop, and you find yourself in a hotel or in whatever the case may be, a room that you're just cutting some vocals for somebody out of a real studio or something. So you have your little mobile setup, and you never know what they're going to have. We've all probably been there. You walk in, and oh, that's the speakers we're working with today. Oh, okay, great, count it all.
I mean, that's a huge point. Got a pair of headphones. Like with these, I travel with these all the time. So it means, it's a huge point. I never traveled with headphones before I got these.
Right.
See, you just subconsciously told me that now I have these, I can travel with headphones. Because if I go to a room, like when I went to the warm room, because I've been in there with you, but I haven't mixed anything.
Right, same. In fact, the warm room has incredible ATC speakers. There's no one going to knock what they've got. But the problem is, we all know you get used to a room and you go into a different room. It doesn't matter if they've got $300,000 worth of speakers in there. It sounds different than your room. If you do a mix in there, just I did at Warm. When I heard it at home, I was like, oh, that's not right. But in that room, I thought I was killing it. No, I was not.
I like the warm room, great tracking room.
Oh, it's nothing against the room. It's just different.
But the control room is far too big.
It is very large.
It's too big a room for mixing. For me, mixing is console, speakers here, sitting there, equilateral triangle. I don't need 100 feet of space behind me.
Right. Yeah.
That can fit 40 people.
But even if it's any room,
Yeah.
You know, no matter how even great you think it sounds, when you set in a new space, you don't know it yet.
Yeah.
And you start dialing in what you think the low end is going to be. You hear it back in the environment that you're used to hearing, and it's all wrong. So if you have something like this that you know and can travel with, all of a sudden you're like, okay, I think this sounds good. Now I can, you know, I can listen in what I know, even though I'm in a room that I don't. I can hear what I do know and know that, oh crap, you know, the bottom end is way too thin or way too boomy or whatever the case may be. So yeah, I mean, it's you know, having tools like this that we can learn and travel with, it's a big deal. It really is.